Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And I'm your host, Bad Baby, and I wish I could say accompanied by my co-host, Alec Lujan, but Alex is still not doing very well. So I'm asking for everybody out there to keep him up in prayer. Uh, he's really fighting a good fight, but uh, it's just not doing too good. So I'm a little bit emotional tonight, and I'm still waiting for my guest to get in here. I think he might be having a problem getting into the window. I'm not sure. But tonight we have Dr. Richard Allen Miller with us. Dr. Richard Allen is an author and a researcher. Dr. Richard Allen reveals a depth of knowledge and experience in alternative agriculture, physics, and metaphysics. Miller began working in the secret world of Navy intelligence, SEAL Corp, and then MRU in the late 60s, and then has amazing experiences and conclusions to share. Before many leading edge concepts became trendy topics, Miller was and is in the international front lines of research, experimentation, and documentation. And I'm still waiting for Dr. Miller to get in here. So before he joins us, I don't know if he's having a problem calling in or what's going on. I want to talk a little bit about some things that are going on. And Dr. Richard Allen Miller also lives in California, so I'm looking forward to a in-depth take on what's going on in California. So let's see if
Burning down. I have no clue. Hi, how are you? I'm not sure how this all works, so I'm connected. Okay, I'm good.
You're here, baby.
Okay. All right, good. I can
Hi,
tell
Dr.
you what I
Richard.
do and don't know. Some of it's not good because there is no question. I have a bunker that has infrared access, and you can see the laser flashes from space. So
Wow.
that's happening. Whatever that is, I don't know. Something about the power company blowing up and starting the fires.
Wow.
And then with all of that, the added drama of false flags. Oh, we've got an opportunity. Let's, take a couple more bodies and raise the body count so that we can get Agenda 21 into place. Who knows? I mean,
God.
it's that bad, and the body count is rising.
Dr. Richard, how many people are missing over there in California? Because, I mean, when I got on
It's
the internet this
changing
morning,
hourly. There's like several hundred people that are unaccounted for. Right now, they have a confirmed, I think, of something like 60 people are confirmed dead.
wow,
I
that is
know.
so
It's
heartbreaking.
yeah, and with all of that, then we have this nonsense with that caravan on its way up. And
Yeah.
then we have some other false flag stuff about Russians and Russian tanks in Mexico getting ready for some kind of, who knows.
Invasion, I heard. Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw that
but see,
video.
that's mostly false flag. I don't know about that part. What I do know is what is happening in California is not natural. The selective burning, where trees are left standing and yet everything else is gone, to see glass that has been slagged, that's temperatures you don't get from a forest fire. To see the selective burning, where this part here is just completely decimated, and yet over here nothing's wrong. How does that work?
I don't have a clue. I hope to God you're far enough away from it.
Well, I'm up here in northern. I'm in southern Oregon, and this is in Southern California. So we're talking a good 1,200 miles away. Now, the one in Reno, that paradise, that's another thing. See, I don't understand what any of this is about. I can tell you what I do know when we're on the air, and we'll go there about the fires in Canada. I have more information on that.
Well, we are on the air right now, dear.
Oh, okay. All right. Then let's go forward. So, okay.
You came in a little bit late, so I did the intro while I was waiting for you.
I'm sorry. Okay. Good.
You
I'm
didn't
glad
hear
we're.
all the beautiful things I said about you?
No, no. And that's just probably as well. I get embarrassed. I honestly, you know, oh, okay. Um, I went to Vancouver Island, to Unity churches up there. There's a bunch of them, like in your area. They are interested in sustainable lifeboats. So they hired me to come in and do a number of workshops up in BC. And we didn't have a summer here in Oregon. The entire summer was smog from smoke from California and from Canada. Now, when I was up in Canada, it was real bad. It was worse than Oregon and our various fires that we had here in the state of Oregon. And what I did see, we saw two lava strikes in the Northern Territories above British Columbia, just adjacent to Alaska. You could see them. It means the plate is shifting. Now, that's item one. Now, right out of the gate, there was one lava strike we saw in the Trinities from space. I don't know what it all means, except that FEMA is saying that it will be an 8.4 off of Crescent City, about 60 miles out into the ocean. There is a volcano out there, and it's going off. And when it goes, the entire shelf is going to drop. Now, when that's going to happen, nobody knows. I mean, you know, you can do the best scenarios, and it's still God's throwing the dice. I don't know. What I do know is it can't not happen. The Earth is expanding. Right now, we're in a grand solar minimum of 500 years, and I've got something to say about that later that is extremely important for everybody to understand. But what's happening is right now the Earth is getting hammered with dark matter from deep space that is not being absorbed by the sun because of it being in a solar minimum. And this is having an effect on everything, including emotions. Yes. I don't know what it means, how dark matter affects consciousness. I know that when it's a lunar full moon, people go crazy. We know about astronomy, we know about astrology, we know about cosmobiology, and so we know that these events do have an effect on human beings. But to what extent, I don't know. Dark matter would suggest depression, you know, the archetypal constructs of what dark might imply, the not knowing. I don't know. What I do know is what I'm feeling. I am aware of self. I you know, can see how I'm feeling at any given moment, and I know myself from my being a pretty positive oriented person. People see me as being transparent, and I, to the best I can, this is my aspiration. But I'm watching the complexity of pain in myself. I'm watching how my thoughts, you know, like witnessing, and something else is going on, and I can't quite put my finger on it. And so, of course, the gunslingers are going off with constant, and when I say constant, I mean constant false flag situations of, you know, the Russia's getting ready to invade America with all these tanks in Mexico, blah, blah, blah. I don't know about that part. I can tell you that I saw a top secret document last week, Navy, that suggested there is a 500-year cycle with the sun and grand solar minimums having to do with complete collapses in civilization. Now, what does that mean? Well, we, according to this document, should experience a coronal mass ejection from the sun, the equivalent of 10 times the Carrington effect back in the 1800s. And it's due, according to this document, December 12th. Now, I have tried to vet as best I can the credibility of what I'm looking at. And even when we have top secret documents, they don't often happen. This is based on brand new information that was recently discovered in regard to the grand solar minimums and historical accountings of them. And it's a Navy project that was doing. And we're about to have a big burp from the sun. And you remember back, when was it? I think it was 2010. No, it was 2014. We had a near miss that would have dropped the Earth back into the Stone Age. And when I say that, it isn't there's going to be life, death, that kind of thing, as much as we have no power.
Exactly.
The grid's down. And when the grid is down, it's going to be down for a couple of years because the actual devices that hold the grid in place are not easily replaceable. And as such, if it goes down, it's not going to be for 30 days. It's more likely half a year to several years. Now imagine New York City, a complex city. You're living 16 flights up, and you have to go to the bathroom, and you're now into the second month.
Yeah.
In terms of hygiene, food resources, and just general attitude of people. Now, whether or not someone is trying to orchestrate an event in California to cause martial law, I don't know about that. That seems possible, and if it's possible, it's probable. And that's the old Merlin to Arthur statement, when Merlin turned to Arthur and he said, anything not specifically forbidden is mandatory. If it's possible, you can count on it. And so there is a change in our political systems. Democrats are no longer Democrats and Republicans. It's more like globalists and nationalists. Now, the thing that bothers me about Trump, I am grateful that we got Trump over Clinton. That comes out just as a given. But Trump is not a scholar, and he embarrasses me in his choice of verbiage and the way he would express himself like a little brat child. He's not the sharpest scholastic knife in the drawer. And because of that, his way of speech, his mannerisms are subject to question. And he's embarrassing me in some ways.
Well, he lacks finesse, eh, Doctor?
Well, he's not Jimmy Carter. Carter had degrees in physics. At least he had gone to school. You know, and I'm talking about vocabulary, choice of words, you know, that way of expression. And this Acosta thing and the media polarizing like they do, in my opinion, for me, I am now personally boycotting CNN and, oh yes, let's add Fox. And you know, the interesting part is, I remember a time when I trusted CBS and watched Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather. And that trust, that's gone. That, you know, I have no confidence in the quality of integrity now in news reporting. It's gone to such an extent that I can't believe anything anymore. I have to go internal to myself. And knowing that I don't know and that there's a high likelihood I'll probably never really know what happened. I can tell you that 9/11 was a staged event. I can prove it. I can prove it. And it's been done, and yet, I'm 74 years old. The generation above me would consider me disrespectful for saying so. And I don't want to disrespect, but how can you believe this nonsense? And with that said, where do you go with that? And what does that do to the inner fabric of America? And what is happening is we are being broken from the inside out with intent. And it isn't them against us. It's a selected party of few trying to control the masses. And
Dr. Richard, do you think what's coming towards the border, all these immigrants and this Trump building up the military down there, do you think that event, when that comes to a head, is going to be the precursor for the start
one
of
of the
martial law?
potentials. It's. I have no idea. I can tell you that anybody that would come across our borders like that has no right to this country. And that's that. There is due process, and the laws are in place, and there are ways to do that without forcibly creating violence. And that's
now, what I'm hearing is that the Democratic Party is planning on giving them housing and tents and trying to bring them in. Is this true?
If this, I have no idea. And here's the bad news. My sister runs the Democratic Party for the state of Washington. And my sister is very smart. She's like me, educated. She was Mills, Phi Beta Kappa, had a full ride scholarship to Oxford, a full ride, and yet she's a Democrat. And I am not. I'm not a Republican. I remember my father was a Republican. I remember the look on his face. He's dead now. When he realized he was no longer a Republican, the shock and disbelief of, my dad couldn't believe he was no longer a Republican. It's changed. A Democrat and a Republican are not the same thing that they were 5 years ago.
Right.
And when I say that, the Democrats are advocating violence. Let's take a closer look at Bill Clinton and his war on drugs as a major drug dealer out of Arkansas that had an interrupt across that bridge, bringing it in. There's the evidence. And now his wife wants to run the country? No, I'm not going there. That's it. What she did in Benghazi as a Navy SEAL is against everything that I have been bred and born to be as true. And I can tell you that the way I'm feeling now, I feel like the choices we are being offered to represent us in Congress, even on a regional and local level, is so corrupt. The graduation in the state of Oregon, where I live, is 73%. What's wrong with that? And that's where I live. I'm at a loss. I love my country. I served as SEAL Team 1. I worked out of the Pentagon. I actually reported to Richard Nixon. I did all of that. Came to a realization that I didn't want to have anything to do with that. Became a mountain man up in the mountains like a Quaker, just farming. For 35 years I've been farming. Just a quiet, simple life. And the only reason that I've gone to the air like this is because my only source of income now are my writings. I'm a good writer, and I have something to say. And I know I don't know, and if I don't know, what does that say about America and what's going on? And why is the news reporting being so disrespectful to the highest office in the world.
It
That's
is a
something wrong.
shame.
No, there's no excuse for that.
No.
None.
You know, when that reporter
Yes,
pushed
he
that
had
gay
lost his
down
rights.
and
It had
that
nothing to
that little
do
girl.
with being for or against Trump. He lost his rights as a human being and not being civil. And that's
Exactly.
it.
She was
That's
doing
it.
her
And that's
job.
it. There's no argument. And I don't care who you're coming from. It's not right. And
I'm
everybody
surprised Secret
knows
Service didn't grab him and toss his butt out.
that. Well, I mean, it's like there is a Netflix thing called Designated Survivor. And my guess is that's exactly what's going on in Washington. There are inner groups within the group that have, like the Pentagon. When 9/11 happened, the Pentagon wasn't hit by an aircraft. What exactly was that? It was a cruise missile. And they now know why. Because it was that set where all those appropriations of misspent money was being held in accountability. They took it out. Now, that is corruption of criminals on the highest level, running the highest levels of politics in the world. And it's got to stop.
Yes.
And that's that.
Now, Dr.
Rick,
Dr. Rick, this document that you've seen that says that the sun is going to have a mass ejection on the 12th of
December 12th, according to the document. I have no idea.
Do you think that that this thing that's going on in California with the burning out of the homes, the laser beams that are coming down, people are saying they're starting these fires on purpose?
As NPI has put it, Rule 37. There are no coincidences.
Right. Do you think that they're doing that? Do you think they might be doing that as a distraction?
I don't know. I can tell you that if it smells like a worm and it moves like a worm, there is a high likelihood, Occam's razor. That's that.
Yeah.
Now, coincidences abound, and they occur. But that's why third generation imaginal psychology also calls it synchronicity. And the idea that there's something else going on here, and you haven't quite got it because consciousness is not, real. And
I had heard, Doctor, that that volcano out there in the ocean is active right now. Is that true?
Oh, yes, ma'am. And when I was in Hilo, a full professor with several of his grad students came up and said, yes, the island is going to go up in 3 pieces and never be seen again. And that is most likely how most of us in the military had felt we were going to have a plate shift. Everything from I-5, Interstate 5, west is toast. All the way from Alaska, all the way down to Central America. And the Pacific Plate, that ring of fire, is moving. And I can see it from space. So when the solar minimum is a pivotal event system that is causing these high energy particles to hit the Earth, which is causing it to expand. That's the best I can figure it. Is it global warming or global cooling? Yes. We have a change going on that is going to set precedents. And I don't know when. I feel like it's imminent.
Yeah. I also heard that when this burp, so to speak, from the sun happens, that people will actually, that are outside, it's going to affect their brain. Is that true?
Well, if they're outside, the inside isn't going to shield them. We're talking about light and UVBs and the kinds of radiation coming off the sun right now, and why you can't be out in it longer than 4 minutes because of skin cancer today. There was a time when I was a boy, our sun was yellow. No longer yellow. That's a given. Everybody seems to forget that, but here we are, literally. The sun is not safe to be outside, and we are noticing it in farmland now in cow pies. How many flies are in the cow pie? What's happening with the ant community? And actually, everything on that level is diminishing because of the radiation. And that's where it starts. And so, heads up. I have been told, according to Hopi prophecy, other similar things, Koryak, Inuit, they're all saying there will be a moment where nothing is going to survive on the surface, and that we have to have at least 10 feet between you and the sun, Earth.
Wow.
Now, the day after tomorrow is like that. Gutenberg Bibles aside, it's going to, there will be a day after tomorrow where there is an extreme shift when the ocean currents reboot. It's necessary because of the salinization of the sea. It's a physics thing. But how long it's going to last? Well, in the movie, it was only 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fairly accurate attempt at dramatizing a potential event that is most likely going to happen. It has to, from a physics point of view. How bad and when, I don't know. And it has historical precedence. There it is in the ice sheet. You can go to Antarctica and drop these ice plugs, and you can see when these things happen. That's a regular cyclic thing. This December 12th is a new concept on the sun that comes from some older data, and then they projected it. I don't know what it all means.
Give us a brief scenario of what it would be like if the grid goes down.
Well, you have no power. Oh, your automobile doesn't turn over. The chip is fried. You can't run your automobile until you replace the computer chip. Of course, getting a computer chip to replace is going to be a little difficult because all computer chips are fried. That means we have to make new ones. How do you make them when you don't have power?
Go to the junkyard
and
get one now and put it in a Faraday cage.
Well, no. Faraday cages, we're talking about 5G microwave band, 5 gigahertz. At 5 gigahertz,
the Faraday cage isn't going to work?
No, they can't. That's quantum mechanical. You couldn't have an atom that is close, and carbon would be the only one that, you couldn't do it. And that's why at this juncture, we don't have space flight like everybody thinks of in the movies. Because just going into space, trying to go to Mars, the amount of time it takes to get to Mars, nothing would make it there because of gamma rays. Now, there's no way to shield them. There are physics directions like mono weave copper in spandex that will reflect gamma rays, does not absorb them, but will reflect them. I don't know how that works. There's new physics that is trying to develop, shielding. It doesn't happen by wearing a pendant around your neck that you paid $45 for. Now, I can tell you, it doesn't work like that. There's
I know, I see them advertised. I laugh at those too.
I know. That's all in metaphor. It's just like wearing a Lucky Charm from a Lucky Charm cereal or some weird thing. Tony the Tiger. Look, this is all.
You mean if I put a
crazy
football helmet on and cover it with tinfoil,
well, then that's that. There you are. That was, that was a Kevin Costner movie, and I can tell you, it isn't going to happen like that. When the grid collapses, we're going to have to go back to some older ways. Now, you can grow crystals like you do fruit and vegetables, And I used to do that. You make your own solar panel. What are you going to do with your well? Well, your bicycle. You can take your bicycle over there and pump it out of the ground with pedaling. But you need to have that in place now, because if this happens next month, how's that going to work? If you don't have water, you are going to be in a world of hurt. And if you want to take and heed on my advice, I'm going to suggest that everybody listening to me at this moment, at least tomorrow morning, have at least 3 days of water stored for every person and animal in your household, with a backup plan on how to replace it the first day. Good luck. That you got 3 minutes for air, 3 days for water, and 3 weeks for food. What's important? You say we haven't even talked about pandemics yet. That'll be next, because everybody will be exhausted. And once, that's what happened after Katrina. Look at how the diseases went rampant through the community because of stress and fatigue. Dehydration is what will kill 50% of humans. That's the bottom line. There it is. Water is the bottom line, and you need to have that resolved now. You need to have a plan in place with your family that if all of a sudden you're at the other end of town, the grid goes down, you have to walk home. Where are you going to walk to? You can't call your mom, can't call your daughter, your sister, your wife. Say, I'm walking home from da-da-da. You have no way to communicate. You need to have a plan in place to know what your mate, friend is going to do, so you're not running around in circles. That's something that needs to happen also right now. After that, things like food and all of that will reserve. You know, most cities only have 3 days of food at any given moment.
Well, if you do have supplies and you are at home, I would say you better damn well board up your house and wait for the havoc to get over with.
Well, my house has weapons at every point in the house. I have these little tiny bottles. They're squirt bottles with ammonia.
Whoa.
How's that sound? I got you. That's how you need to start thinking about security. If you're a hoarder, you can count on them coming for your drugs, your foods, your weapons, and let's not forget your women. That's a given. Look at what you think will happen in East LA when they're out of food. That, by definition, is a zombie. Now, how do you get a zombie crowd off your tail? Oh, I have a water cannon with a bunch of ammonia. When the stores have been ripped apart for food and everything's gone, bleach and ammonia will still be on the shelves. They're your friends, and they're weapons of choice. Squirting somebody or a mad animal in the face with ammonia will stop even a rabid dog, make him want to go home and rethink his life. Now, with that said, if you have these little weapons, not a blood pipe here and a do-to-do there, just a little tiny one of these little squirt bottles, you know, that how you flip it up and it squirts out a cream or whatever, only you have it filled with ammonia. You have one in every room in the house. Nobody knows what a weapon looks like. Surprise, surprise, surprise. A little Gomer pile. That's how you defend yourself. You do it proactively, rethinking why you do what you do. And if you've got a bunch of weapons,
I'm going to go to the store tomorrow.
You can count on the fact that the town's going to come visit you.
Oh, yeah. So I'll go to the store tomorrow, and everybody will be buying ammonia, and all the ammonia will
Well, those squirt bottles. You go to the dollar store. That's your best shot there, man.
Actually, you could get yourself a super soaker and fill that with ammonia. It would squirt it farther.
So there it is, water cannon.
Yeah.
set up a perimeter. Yeah. Well, I'm kidding. I'm trying to make light of something that may save your life. And
Well,
I'm not trying to
Doctor.
make light of it. I was a Navy SEAL. I know what lurks in the hearts of men.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I look
it's,
at it this way. If I'm supposed to survive, then I will. And if I'm not supposed to survive, I sure in the hell hope they got blacktop roads and Harley Davidsons on the other side.
well, you can count on it, and the checkered demon will be there to rip it off. Trust me. So, yeah, a little Zap comic never hurt anybody. I've been there, Mom, and I can tell you, leather jackets aside, it's gonna be cold out there shortly, and people need to be careful. Just in road rage today, look at how everybody's different in the way they drive.
Yep. Yep.
Why?
I have never seen so many people hit people and drive off.
Yeah.
I mean, in Detroit here, they've
No
got
accountability.
3 people
Just
on trial right now for murdering, running people down, murdering them, and then driving off. And children are being hit and ran down, and they leave them, they lay there and die and drive off. I mean, it's like they have no conscience. Are you still with me, Doctor?
yeah, I just have a stomach ailment. When I talk like this, it makes me upset to my stomach because
Oh,
I'm
I'm
a
sorry.
nerd. I'm not a spook. I don't like drama and I don't like violence, and I certainly don't want to hurt anybody, even if they need it. It's not my
Yeah.
role. That's
You know,
not who I want to be.
my dog has this thing about wanting to kill all little critters, and when he gets a hold of them, even when he bites a snake in half, it hurts my heart. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, what'd you do that for?
Well, like a dog licking its balls because it can. Look, I don't know that. What I do know is there is so much going on right now, and you can't believe any of it as valid. When they go on the news and they say this is happening right now, is it really? I can tell you, I watched, you had a thing about 5G towers, and I'd like to say something about 5G. 5G technology has the potential to be an endgame weapon. Let me tell you what I see. I was part of the original technical developments of synthetic telepathy back in the 70s. That was a technology developed by Alan Frey at Willow Grove where we could place a voice anywhere in space, including outer space. Didn't need air. Had nothing to do with sound. What it was at at 0.3 to 3 gigahertz, caused the temporal lobes in your brain to heat up and begin to ring. And if you heterodyned audio on top of that microwave band, you could literally hear the sound inside your head, not going through your audio system of ears. Now, what happened is they did a bunch of beta testing in prisons a few years back where they switched the drug of choice from opiates to antipsychotics. And in the prisons now, it is no longer an epidemic in opiates as much as it is on antipsychotics, including methamphetamine and related kinds of speed. That is the primary in prisons. And it was discovered that 1 out of 5 people on an antipsychotic was unstable. But then the second beta testing was done on high school kids that were on Prozac and other antipsychotic drugs, uh,
Ritalin.
yeah, all the list goes down, and every single report before CNN gets there 3 hours later and changes the spin, in every single case, there is more than one shooter. Oh yeah, I heard shooting over here and over there. There is the individual that ends up being the blame on it has been hearing voices in his head, and the second shooter that gets away is most likely carrying scopolamine. And you take an unstable on Prozac or one of those other antipsychotics, and they're hearing voices in their head. And these don't have to be voices that you can hear. They can be voices that are subliminal, hypnotic, where you can't tell it's your own voice. And you hit that person with scopolamine, and now you have a weapon that you can aim. Batman, movie, whatever. And when I say that, imagine putting a smart meter on every house in America so that you can deliver that voice in someone's head, where an AI is simply gene selecting the DNA of which individual is targeted within your house and how many people are on an antipsychotic in your neighborhood. And when you start to realize the extent of that right now, what you have now is an army of loose cannon weapons that does not need police control. All you need is a single handler with scopolamine going in and tapping the individual that has been targeted using a smart meter. And that is probable as an endgame weapon where it no longer needs law enforcement to hold true and lock down a community. And then when you talk about these chemtrails deploying lithium in a small city like Reedsport, Oregon, to see if they can lock down a city, I'm concerned, and I'm very concerned that we don't have any accountability on what all this chemtrails. Who's paying for that? It's $10,000 an hour just to fly a jet at that altitude. That's what it costs. $10,000 an hour in jet fuel. And who's deploying all that metal into the atmosphere and why? Is it global warming? Is it global cooling? Is it a radiation shield and ICBM, where they have enough particulate in the matter, they hit a laser across it, and it will stop an incoming ICBM. However, it doesn't stop the spike. And because of that, I'm going to suggest you can count on it. And if they take your power away from you, now what are you going to do when you need water?
We're going to be in trouble.
Well, we already are, because that's already happening in California. And with all of this geoengineering, why are we experiencing drought when that whole technology was supposed to bring rain and clean, smog, like at San Francisco Airport, that kind of thing? That's where it all started. Why are we in a drought? I don't believe it. I think something else is going on. We're not being given the full money of disclosure, and as such, how can we make the right decisions without knowing what's going on? And so they say that the Rothschilds and those people are on the run. Yeah, the way that some of them spin it is that they're going to be the first in the bunker because they want to be the first out of the bunker. And please understand, the Clovis culture had spaceflight down in Popo before they crawled out of a cave to become the Hopi and the Navajo. So I have concerns, and I know that I don't know, but I have enough technology background and weapons to know what they can do with 5G. And there's movies that are running it down, going from, like my telephone, the one I'm on right now, does not have as good a transmission because it's pre 2G technology. And the quality of my phone compared to my blue ball mic that I have on my other computer is just, if I were doing Skype with you, it's like
Yeah.
a world of difference.
I emailed you.
I saw that at the last minute. I didn't have time.
Yeah, at the last minute, because see, the email that was sent out last night, I had my roommate send it to you because I fell and injured my back, and
oh, I'm sorry. We need a couple of houseboys to come in and walk on your back like Keisha girls. Huh?
I just want someone to rub it and kiss it, make it feel better.
Yeah, being waited on works. I'll tell you, I don't have the knowledge base to know what's really going on, but I can tell you just from my own access to the satellite that we have in my bunker, it has infrared on it. You can see the laser beams. There's something else going on down there. I think one of the power companies has got a problem with their capacitors, and there's going to be no grid in California shortly, where they're talking about turning off the power now. They're talking about that.
They're talking about turning off the power? Oh,
that's what's causing the fires.
Hysteria. Well, I put a posting on my Facebook page about, it was kind of like supposed to be a joke, where this guy said he works for PG&E, and they want to know how we started the fires. Well, first we sprayed chemtrails to make the air
that was the Woolsey thing. You can see the explosion. I posted that 2 days ago on my Facebook, and this morning I did synthetic telepathy. Look at how with the horn, like they used against the Branch Davidians, you can mess with people's head. And when I say that, you can't make them do things they don't want to do unless they're unstable. And if they're unstable, like on an antipsychotic, now scopolamine is the drug choice. And you can aim them like a weapon.
Oh, Dr. Rick, if you want, I can chit-chat for a couple minutes, and you can throw your headset on and click on my link and come in through the computer if you want.
Well, it's in another part of the house. It's a different system. I'm good. Is this bad, or are you okay? Is this okay?
Oh no, we're here, dear. I mean,
okay.
I can hear
next time we'll do that, bad baby. We'll do that next time. Yeah.
That's great. I apologize, but I just, I'm a crippled old woman.
Well, truckers gotta love it. You gotta love it, man.
It's funny. My brother's calling me a Kruger because I had my computer go out, and I went over and had this guy fix my computer, and I went back to get the battery for it, and he had ordered me, and he invited me to dinner, and I said, "Are you asking me out?" And he said, "Yeah." And when I went over there, I said, "How old are you?" He said, 47. I said, "Why do you want to date your mother?"
Because he's in Saturn return, and he's confused and about to die on the cross.
He thought I was 50, He said, I said, "How old do you think I am?" He goes, 50? I'm not going to tell you how old I am, everybody, but I'm a lot older than 50.
Yeah, well, that means you've got a lot more juice than knowledge. So, even dirty old men need love. That's Marty Feldman.
I told him he couldn't afford me anyways.
Yeah, probably not. And that's a good way to let him out easy. Yeah.
That's it. He said, "I could tell with that fancy leather coat you got on." And then he started bragging about his truck, and he opened the door and he goes, "Oh, you got a 4-wheel drive Dodge 3500 diesel, huh?"
Yeah, and what I drive is a 280Z. Hoorah.
That's what I told him.
That's it, man. Title for title. We'll see how your truck holds up around those curves.
Call me back when you win the lottery.
Hey, I got it. Yeah, that's right. It'll take several. But no problem. I already do that as a living. That's what my ESP thing was all about. How to think with your gut. to work with instinct, and you start hanging out there, let me tell you, that's where all the answers really are. And they're a little different for each of us. But each one of us, we really know what's going on.
And
that's the problem. You just don't want to be.
Why do women have more instinct? I mean, I don't mean to knock men, but
EQ. It's more important than IQ. You know, the emotional plane is about more detail about the physical plane. And Benny Jesuit's rule. And so that's that. Emotional means how you feel about the physical. It's like a hologram. And the next level of information over the physical is the emotional. And that's why women have a better source of center. That's a good word. Better source of center, because your dreams and everything you're doing on higher levels deal with emotions, not things. And that's why emotional EQ is over IQ.
Because I get that all the time. Like, I got a bad feeling about you.
Oh, yeah. And it ain't good. How did David Bowie put it? Oh, yeah. Smells bad. Yeah. I elaborate. Well, I don't know. And the problem is, I probably won't really ever have true closures on what happened in California fires, because most likely it's all of the above. When the good Reverend James said, "Is that house white or brown?" the correct answer was yes.
Well, and you know, I just read today that there is a nuclear waste facility on the edge.
That's the big one that was down in the Woolsey fire. You say there's all kinds of worlds of hurt that can happen next.
I mean, if
we haven't even begun.
If a tsunami comes in there or that catches on fire, isn't that going to like poison a lot of people in the surrounding?
Well, that's why the Columbia River is toxic now, and why you pull tuna out of San Francisco that glow in the dark because of the Columbia River and Hanford. Oh yeah, it's leaking. You can absolutely guarantee. Fukushima's one problem, but we've got them locally. And here's the bad news. Yellowstone right now is showing lava in Ohio from space. The underground caverns, you can see it. It runs as far as Ohio right now. And when Yellowstone blows, the United States gets cut in half. And the New Madrid fault line in the Midwest has got 21 Daiichi-like reactors, General Electric. They're all leaking. And if you don't think that's going to mess up everything, there will be, in the next epoch, probably forbidden zones where man can't go on Earth because of radiation. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of years just near Antarctica, down in.
So I don't understand what the elite in the underground bunkers think they're going to come back up to, unless they have some.
They didn't. The whole
plan.
idea of Timothy Leary and SMILE, space migration, intelligence increase, longevity extension, SMILE, that guy, yeah, that was the only thing we couldn't do was leave orbit. When I came out of grad school, the first job I had with Boeing was Lunar Base Alpha 1. Later became the Space Center down in Kent. But at that time, it was in South Park in Tukwila, and I worked with Old Man Pilgrim, growing pot on the moon. That's 1970. That's how long ago I've been doing it. And now we have these vertical aquaculture systems where you can go underground. Mars, right now, literally has more water on it than Earth does as a smaller planet.
Well, maybe I should go there and grow pot.
Well, here's the deal. I'm writing that one right now for Netflix called The Domes of Mars. And I'm using Martian poop and fiber from hemp to use a 3D printer to print up the domes on Mars. Hoorah.
Well,
Well,
wouldn't you know it, damn it? They just legalized marijuana in Michigan, and now the whole world's going to go to hell in a handbag.
there it is. I'm concerned about the Midwest right now because of those Daiichi-like reactors. And California has burial grounds that, have been forgotten and are at risk with fire like this.
Well, I saw where one area where they did nuclear testing was already burned. That where the
Yeah, there it is. And that's when they had that flash of the radiation going up in ash in the atmosphere and falling down
right,
on Earth, and people, yeah. So that's
right.
where you stay indoors because
Well,
that's ash. And what you
actually, that
do
video
is you
that I
keep your
watched, the
home.
mothers were saying the children in that area, over 50 or 60 children, had leukemia already from the radiation just living in
Yeah,
the area.
yeah. That's over a period of time, it gets into the drinking water. Yeah. And there'll be a class action suit. Yeah. Probably the next generation. I have no idea how it's going to play, but you
Now,
can count on
now
it.
that radiation's in that smoke, then that smoke plume that's traveling up in the hills.
Well, I don't know.
If the site burned, wouldn't
But
the
then
radiation
you
go
need
up
to
in
go in with a
smoke?
Geiger counter and take some measurements. There is a place where you can find that called NETC.com, the Nuclear Emergency Tracking Center, NETC.com. And that will give you every minute updates on radiation levels everywhere. And yeah, they're extended right now in Southern California. Go figure.
Wow. If I lived in California right now, I would just say the hell with it and get in my vehicle and just head the hell
Well,
out of
I
there.
think that's what Moonbeam wants. That's what they're trying to do is close down California. Texas would be next with their own grid. And that's the deal. California has got too many uppities, and they're going to take it down. And that's why where I live, we talk about it as the free state of Jefferson. Hoorah.
Wow. Well, and it seems like the elderly are the ones that are really missing. They said mostly elderly people didn't get out.
That's right.
And
That's
isn't
right.
that what they said on isn't that what Nancy Pelosi wants? She wants to terminate the elderly?
Pelosi has got a screw loose. Listen. These people at some point are going to be held accountable, and they call that Nuremberg, war
hmm
crimes against humanity.
Yes. Yeah, I was standing and waiting for a store to open the other day, and we were talking about her, and I said, yeah, she feels that in Obamacare they should terminate the elderly so they aren't a drag on the medical system. And people were like, "You're kidding me!" And I said, "No, but I was looking at her, and she don't
She
look like a
probably
spring
thinks we
chicken."
should leave our troops overseas and ignore them too after they gave their all to save so-called our freedom. Freedom is not free,
No.
and you have to earn it. And right now, we're losing it piece by piece. And when Obama did that Agenda 21 thing, allowing foreign troops on our soil during national emergency,
hmm
how could they have allowed anything like that?
And I have talked to people about that, and they tell me I'm crazy. He never did that. He was the good guy. I'm like, oh my God,
Oh, yeah,
I need
well,
my
good luck with
waivers.
that. Here's the way Yoda put it: my gun you may have after I give you my bullets, I will. Well, that's the way that plays. One house at a time. Good luck with that.
Well, my thoughts on Pelosi wanting to terminate the elderly. How old is that woman? She don't look like no spring chicken, and I figure if she wants to terminate the elderly, she can get in line first. We'll
Yeah.
see how it works out.
Well, I
I,
don't know what's going to happen. In any case, um, I have books to sell, and feel free to hawk for me. Hi, because that's my only source of income, and my war with Amazon continues, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Well, why don't you tell everybody where they can get your books and
Sure,
what you got
I'm
out there?
my website. My website is richardallenmiller.com, ALAN, and I have, like in the old days with free shareware, I have a free download library to support 11 years of teaching metaphysics at Harvard. I taught metaphysics as a graduate level course. For 11 years, I had 15 courses, 8 weeks each. And each one used old rare manuscripts and, books on magic, lost books of the Bibles, quoting from them to teach metaphysics, as I used to teach it at Harvard. And those are, right now, there are 10 audiobooks out. There will be, when I'm finished, 15 audiobooks. There are 10 out right now on sale. And the download library is the manuscripts I used when I taught those courses, so that you can go into the old books and see the quotes I used and come to your own conclusions. Now, what I'm trying to do is educate people. And right now, physics is poised to go through some massive changes. We're seeing it in medicine with psychedelic healing. You talked about EQ over IQ. Well, now medicine is talking about healing on a spiritual level, and it proliferates down into the physical, which changes placebo, going from 10% of your belief system to now 40%. And they're saying that in medicine, and this is why the new direction in physics is going to be in the study and field of altered states of consciousness and how the laws change in these altered states, where you can do things you cannot do in normal conscious state. There are numerous Aborigine and other older civilizations on Earth that used to believe that consciousness was a dream state, and that certain dream states held more content to reality than consciousness did. And so that's where you work on an emotional level. It isn't so much what the content of the dream was about as much as how you felt about the dream. And that's where the new directions in physics will now become magic, which is the study of altered states as tools in a toolbox where you can use them. Like, let's use one like anger. Anger is an emotion that we all tend to ignore and try to dismiss when we feel it because it's counterproductive. However, anger is also an emotion that will help you clean a floor better than anybody else can. And with that said, it's like water, and what Bruce Lee talked about, become like water. When you put it in a container, now instead of it being a limitation, a wound, it now becomes a blessing, and what distinguishes you differently than somebody else. And because of your bad experience here, it set up wounds there, and those wounds, once they're containerized or understood or identified, now you have a tool that you can use to do something other people can't. And one title I'm writing right now, I've got a bunch of books, but I've got new books I'm writing, is called The Magical and Ritual Use of Metaphor, Archetypal Gods in Daily Living. This was a technique I trained Navy SEALs. Yeah, basically in Jungian psychology, you're basically either considered possessed, like you have only one God, one story going on, or you're complexed, in which case you have more than one story. And each story has an ending. And then you have the choice, is that how you want to end? And if you don't, then you have a thing called pathworking, where you can use these blessings, limitations as blessings, to move yourself toward the light or where you want to go, in the distinction between intent and purpose. That's what I've been doing now. I'm trying to figure out how to use the release of specific neurotransmitters in my brain to change the movie. Just like 45 years ago, I trained Navy SEALs how to control their heart rate, pulse, and respiration using biofeedback. I've now amped it up. I'm using video feedback systems, and I have a 3-book series out called The Diamond Body, Electro Magic, and Yogatronics. And this is the new direction in physics, is magic, the art of changing consciousness at will.
Basically, that's what Houdini did. He lowered his heart and breathing to
biofeedback. He was controlling
right.
autonomic functions. That one
Right.
saved my life when I missed a pickup in the Bering Sea. I was doing a job for the Navy. I went in and did it, and then I escaped and waited for a sub pickup, and they missed my pickup, and I was at sea for almost a full day in the Bering Sea. And I saved my life by knowing how to lower my heart rate pulse, and I went down into stasis. When they found me, I was blue, but I'm still last man standing.
Wow. You know, and we basically, if any kind of illness we have, Dr. Rick, we can heal our bodies with our minds, correct?
That is what we call placebo. And most of us know more about what's really going on than the doctor does. And doctors today, medicine's broken. And,
yes.
Right now, my doctor is Seventh-day Adventist. He be slowing the scripts, and he wants to put me on meds so that I have to come in 4 times a year. He gets his Social Security. Oh, yeah. I was Navy intelligence, not Navy. That means I don't have domiciliary, I get Medicare. That's the deal, man. I wasn't in Navy. I was Navy intelligence. I was a GS-18. Oh, man. Anyway, that could go wrong. It does. I'll tell you. Actually, I'd rather have Medicare than the domiciliary anyway, so there it is.
Well, and it just kills me because the pills that they push on everybody, the side effects sound worse than the disease.
Well, that's right. I had 2 hip operations. One hip, I did tramadol, and the other I didn't. And the last one I didn't, I whined a lot, and a lot of people didn't even want to be around me the first day out of the hospital. But I healed 4 times faster by not taking pain medicine. Pain, unfortunately, has a purpose in the scheme of healing in terms of what gets released in NK killer cells and the rest of it. And I can tell you, medication is not as good as just dealing with the reality of something of suck it up. And so in my go bag, my pain medicine is an eagle bone whistle.
Well, I haven't seen a doctor for my back. And someone said, "Why are you doing your show tonight?"
That's the deal.
Then someone said, "Are you got any pain medicine?" I said, "No, I don't take medicine." And they said, "Well, how are you going to do your show?" I said, "I got a leather strap to bite on."
Yeah, I drink a lot before I start, whatever. Yeah.
Well, and they said, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing your show with your back like it is." I said, "So don't you know that's why they call me Bad Baby?"
Yeah, and now I'm going to be really bad.
Well, you know what? Actually, Dr. Rick, it's mind over matter.
It's Mecca Flat Blues, and somebody's going to pay.
Well, and when you said that we're going to have the big burp from the sun, do you know what my first thought was? I'm glad my liquor cabinet's stocked. I'm going to get on the roof and I'm going to watch it come in with a bang.
I saw that movie. Wasn't that in Armageddon? Or he said, "I'm going to sit and have a front row seat at the horror." That's right. He was one of the survivors, though, please realize in the movie. Of course, that's Hollywood, so who knows?
Well, isn't that how they do when they're drunk driving? It's usually the drunk guy that survives. Why do you think I want to get drunk?
Yeah, softens the blow. Yeah.
It'll be like, oh, it's over?
Well, I don't think it's going to be quite like that. I think it's going to be much worse. And I have a feeling that nobody's going to be very happy about it because it'll be like Mexico. Trying to drive from one city to the next, you have to be very careful on the roads alone.
Well, either when you're on the road, if you get caught with the solar minimum flare and your car does not move, I would suggest you have a skateboard in the trunk or a bicycle hooked to the back of your truck.
Yeah. Or some way to buy your way out. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. I always carry some extra things on me. Buck knife, the usual things. Little Boy Scout knife. I have a buck knife. I try to stay as crispy as I can. I know my woods well enough that if I had to go back into the woods, I could live quite nicely. I know how to live in the woods, with food, grubs, fish, whatever. Most people immediately think of shooting something. And it's not going to be about red meat. It's going to be more about a Mediterranean diet with good water. And
Right.
good luck.
Yeah. Well, I would recommend at least buying those straws that, you can drink out of the streams or puddles with.
Oh, that'll only work for certain things. I don't know about coliform and some of those other things. If some animal commits suicide up above you, decides.
Well, what about that Chalet? Are you familiar with the Chalet water bottle that's supposed
No,
to take
no.
He says it'll take radiation out.
Workbook 3, which I haven't written yet, is a large bus here in Southern Oregon called the Caterpillar. And right now it's a science bus run by third graders that go to first grade school systems and teach first graders about the monarch butterfly and entomology and, look under the microscope thing. And what we're doing is setting up a bus exactly like that, except it's a mobile water testing laboratory run by third graders, teaching first graders how to test for turbidity, pH, and the clarity of water. And the last chapter of Workbook 3 is how the child then goes home and teaches the parent how they did it.
Wow. Well,
That's
we need to.
where I'm coming from. Yeah, our education system's broken, like medicine. And our children are our single most natural resource. And we're supposed to be the wealthiest country in the world. Why is our education system down around 20th? And in a place like where I live, the high school graduation is 73%.
Wow.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Well,
it's terrible.
I'll tell you one thing. I was in Walmart the other day, and this girl, her register didn't work, and she was supposed to give me change for $1, and she couldn't figure it out.
I watched a video the other day. 2 girls in a car. One's driving, the other's sitting there, and she says, "If I'm going 80 miles an hour, how long would it take me to go 80 miles?"
Go 80 miles, and she said, "I don't know."
And the other one went blank, like had no clue how to approach that problem. Now,
how about
the problem
Rick, how
of
about
millennials.
Dr. Rick? How about the one where they're trying to dial the rotary phone, and they're going, "Grandma, how does this work?"
Yeah, exactly. Boy, they got the thumb wrestling down good.
And the one girl goes, "I got it figured out. She knew how to dial it, but she didn't. She dialed it and then picked the phone up."
Yeah, the keyboard and the way it's laid out. I have to tell you, I'm really, really concerned because it's these kids that are going to be taking care of you when you can't go to the bathroom by yourself anymore. And how's that going to work?
I
There
don't
it
know.
is. There
You
it
know,
is. Realize that's who's going to take care of you. And so we've got a problem, Houston. And, we've got a problem. And people have not acknowledged it. And now when the grid collapses, well, that's going to be the compty-coopty-doo. There it is.
well, I think it's those kids that are going to go ape shit first when they realize they can't get any money out of the bank, and then they're going to start looting and kicking the doors in at the stores, and
Well,
and
the different stages of grief. There it is. Watch it, read it, and weep. There it is. Anger, disbelief. Doesn't want to say it. Doesn't want to
then when the
acknowledge the
stores get
problem.
depleted, then it's going to be the elderly that's going to be preyed on.
Well, that's Pelosi. There she is. And here's the problem. This one millennial comes in, Dad, there's something wrong with the truck. I can't get it to go over 20 miles an hour. And the father said, well, let's go take a look. He went in, put the key in the ignition, released the brake. The truck drove fine. And the kid turned around and said, what did you just do? They don't. Can you imagine them trying to change an oil filter?
How
Well,
far back? How
that's
far back in
what
year?
happened to shop? What happened to automotive? What
Hey,
happened to, you see,
what
all
happened to
these
home
different things.
economics?
Yeah.
How far back
So,
do we have to go in a vehicle, Dr. Rick, where we won't have to worry about a brain or a chip frying? I mean, if we get an older vehicle, we wouldn't have that problem, correct?
well, we have replacement parts. Like my 280Z, I have to scrounge for stuff to make it run. But I can tell you that engine, I have over 300,000 miles on the engine, and yet the ports are within a quarter of a pound in balance for rings. I have never driven anything that was better built than my
I mean,
280Z.
if we had something like an old classic car, that wouldn't fry, would it?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't. But then you're going to have to figure out how to put gasoline from the ground into your can that you can pour into your vehicle
I already
because the
know how to
pumps
do
aren't going
that.
to work.
I already know how to do that. All you got to do is
Okay.
bust that thing in the ground where they pump the gas, and you take your bicycle pump and you duct tape a garden hose to it, put the garden hose down in that tank, pull the
Yeah.
pump up, that
And
pulls
then you
some
have
gas up in
2
the
guys
hose,
to
push the
protect
pump
you while
down.
you're doing it because there's going to be a bunch of people watching you wanting to take that gasoline from you. Oh,
Well,
it
I'm
goes
planning
downhill
on
from
doing
there.
it after they're all toast.
I grew up living next door to Ernest Callenbach. He wrote a book called Ecotopia, and it was about the United States. There was a place, it was California and Oregon that seceded from the Union in 1984 and then opened their doors in 1999 to let the first reporters in and how we lived differently. There was no automobiles in the state of Jefferson. What it was now Michael Tobias is the new ecologist out of UC Berkeley. He wrote Voice of the Planet, and the one is responsible for the what is it, the white leopard and all the other snow leopard, Tibet, that kind of thing. Look, they did a series with Meryl Streep and William Shatner called The Voice of the Planet with PBS that's absolutely a must-see. But I can tell you that nobody has got a headset for what is about to happen. And as such, IQ, and as a measure of adaptability, just how quickly you go from this way of living to that way of living, and you're about to have to be challenged shortly. And
Well,
food is going to be the least of your problems.
yeah. I mean, December 12th doesn't
Hygiene,
give us.
you've got hygiene, you've got heat, you've got, I mean, you have a bunch of needs. We haven't even talked about entertainment. What are you going to do when you don't have TV? Nothing to turn on. Read a book?
I can sing pretty good.
Well, I understand, but how many people are like you? Yeah. And where does
I
that
know.
go,
And I'm
Bubba?
great at
Yeah.
comedy,
Yeah, well,
you
that's
know.
why the Greek technology had divine tragedy and divine comedy. You either laugh your way out or you shoot your way out. One of the two.
So I'll be a laughing shootist,
There you
armed with
go.
my
That's
ammonia
called the
bottle.
Joker. And, when he said, wait till you get a load of me. Yeah, really. That's what I'm talking about. It's all going to go like comic books.
Well, I can't get a flamethrower, but I sure as shit got some cans of hairspray and a book of matches.
Well, then there it is. You've got your flamethrower and with that little squirt, squirt, squirt with ammonia. That is what I carry in the woods when I'm in grizzly country. Bear spray isn't going to work on a grizzly like ammonia does.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well,
I
then
never
there it
thought
is.
about ammonia, and I can't stand that
That's
ammonia.
big. I wrote a book. One of my books was called The Anarchist Cookbook. And I had all kinds of creepy things in there that, just little things like a light bulb. Take a light bulb and you drill a hole in it where you let the air back in it. Now you put a little tiny, tiny bit of gasoline in there and screw that back up into the socket. Boy, will that liven a party up when they turn on the lights. Everybody gets
Surprise!
excited. Let me tell you, man, the whole thing's on fire, and it's creepy. I used to be a naughty boy, and now I'm so grateful
Oh,
that
you
I have
used
that
to be a
background.
naughty boy. Now, see, I've got a guest in the chat room that says pre 1980s, our cars and trucks won't have the brain fry.
They won't, but some of them still, like mine, has electronic ignition, and anything that has a chip is going to be dead DOA.
Man. And you think about it, I mean, some people will be like, well, I got horses. But, those horses aren't going to live very long because they aren't going to have their food or their water.
Well, there's all kinds of what ifs, and I just am looking at large cities and how that's going to play.
So the main thing to do is get away from civilization, I guess, wouldn't you say?
Well, to be a little more empowered, like Chattanooga, the city of Chattanooga now produces 40% of the food consumed in that city. Every single restaurant has a greenhouse.
Wow.
That's what we should be doing now.
Right.
Moving into those kinds of directions.
Right. Like start learning about aquaponics and growing food indoors, because even if you did plant a garden outdoors, everybody would be in there pillaging it.
Well, that's what they do when they rip off apples on their way to school.
Well, I have to admit my apples lay on the ground and rot. I don't go out there and pick them up. And my pears, I have varlet pears, and I don't go. Actually, my roommate went out and started gathering them this year, but I had so many pears when I was a youngster, I just don't fancy them. But I imagine I would if I was starving, wouldn't I?
So gleaning is a good thing. I used to take apples and pears and throw them through a hammer mill and troll them out into fruit leather. That's a good tack.
Yeah, and if you got a dehydrator, you could make a fruit roll-up out of it too.
All you need to dehydrate is air, fans.
Yeah, in one of those movies that you were talking, I think it was The Morning After or something, they actually were taking food and slicing it and putting it on like baking sheets and setting it out in the sun. Are we gonna still? I mean, after we have the CME hit our planet, are we going to still have a sun? I mean, is the sun going to still be warming our planet or growing anything?
I don't know. I'm going to
You
hand
need to
you
get
over
a
to
drink?
Julie for a minute. One moment.
Okay. That's
Hey,
okay.
hi there.
Go for it.
Hi, Bad.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Oh, it's a pleasure to talk to you this evening.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in California, isn't there?
Oh my goodness. Do you want to come visit at Michigan? I know you've been to Michigan. You're from Michigan.
Well, my folks are from the Midwest there, yeah, and we did have a lot of relatives at one time, but a lot of them are gone now. But it's a
Well,
beautiful state, Michigan. I still have fond memories in Mackinac Bridge and Upper Peninsula. It's a beautiful state. Yeah.
I think I got Dr. Rick all choked up.
Yeah. But he'll be okay in a minute. He'll be all right.
Oh,
He's just
well,
taking a little break.
yeah, I think I got him a little
I'm
bit too
back. I'm
excited.
back.
Oh, thank God.
Oh yeah. I'm.
Are you okay?
I'm tossing off a. I'm. I'm tossing. I'm tossing off a flu, and I'm going to need to hand you back to Julie for a minute.
All right.
All right.
Okay, Joey.
Yeah, here I am. I think it just got a trigger effect on him. You know, it's like a chain reaction, and when he talks
Good thing
a little
we
bit
know
more,
each other, eh, Joey?
yeah, it just kind of got a hold of him here. I don't know,
Hey,
he's had this,
he needs some colloidal silver.
yeah, to kind of help with that. Right. That's a good thing. I'll have to suggest that to him. Yeah. That's very effective.
I gave some of that to a friend of mine that came over here that had put the roof on my house, and he was getting sick, and he said, it's that time of year. I said, no, I don't accept it that it's that time of year. All you need is a little colloidal silver. So he says, what's that? And I gave it to him, and he says, this ain't one of your witch's brew with a spell in it, is it?
There you go. There you go.
I said, no, I only give that to the people I don't like.
Yeah, it can be very effective. I know.
Well, talking about Michigan, do you realize that we had no Indian summer? We went right from
Is that right?
we went from summer to like 3 or 4 weeks of fall and right into winter.
Is that right? I wonder why without a more gradual.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, the last 3 days here, we've been snowing like mad in Michigan.
Wow. I've heard in Missouri they have snow too that came on suddenly.
Yeah, and they're saying all the way up the East Coast, they're having extreme cold weather and extreme, like Richie from Boston, and he said they went right from fall to winter.
I know. I'm back now. I am sorry I'm so ill. This is the first time I've ever been on national radio and been ill in the middle of it, like seriously ill.
I'm so sorry,
Dr.
Dr.
with no
Rick.
warning. I apologize.
Well, if I would have known you were ill, we could have rescheduled.
I know, but hey, it's all good. It's good. It's good. Honest. I'm just trying to be a trooper here, and I'm a survivor. Boy, have we been going through some weird weather here too. We didn't even have a summer. The smoke all summer long was so toxic that you couldn't even go outside.
See, now I have a friend that is in Fresno, and he said the smoke from that fire is unbearable. He's up in the mountains, and he said he lives in a trailer park community, and he said people are getting so sick from that smoke. And I thought, man, get the hell out of there.
Well, if your home and your home is got a perimeter that you're trying to save it. That's one of the other things. You don't want to leave your home. You want to try to keep it from burning down.
I don't know what them people are going to do. I mean, right now they're in
a real sad moment in our history.
I mean, those people are in shelters right now, but they have to go somewhere, Dr. Rick.
Right. Slowly getting myself back into center here. Sorry about that. And thank you. I tried not to make it a big deal.
Well, I'll do the talking. How does that sound?
There you go. That's what I'm talking
I got
about.
a bad feeling about you. I'm keeping my eye on you.
Yeah. Actually, it's really interesting. I even have a handler from Putin. I have my Navy handler. I have a handler from Putin. He's best friends with my handler from the Navy. It's interesting. Putin, in all of his evilness and all the rest of it, has also done more for Mother Russia than any of their leaders in their history.
Yeah.
And Putin is, Edgar Casey says it will be the bear that saves America. Putin's handler is the one that started Matt Stein and I to do urban survival skill workshops and sustainable lifeboats. He's the one that started me on that.
Well, I heard that he even is, he's providing underground facilities for this mass coronal ejection that's coming in.
That's right. And this, to some extent, I have a bunker. I don't know why I'm ill. There's something going around. And
Wow.
I'm not going to do flu shots. That's crazy. I mean,
No,
well,
I don't do those either.
I'd like some Black Plague, please. Right? What?
I like some Black Plague.
Yeah, a little bit of dash of yellow fever, and I'm all good. Yeah. I have done my tour of other countries where I had to go in and get weird shots, and I remember I was going to China. I was 4 years old. And I was in a long line. My parents were Navy. And so, I was in this long line getting 6 days of plague shots in 1948. And I broke because I still have a fear of needles because of those periods. And I'm telling you, back then, the doses they gave you, you actually got Black Plague and yellow fever. What they did is they gave you just enough that you don't kill yourself. You build up an immunity. And,
right. Yeah,
today,
what if your immunity is
anymore.
down? And then it's like, okay, thanks for the Black Plague.
Well, if you want to go to China or anywhere in Asia, yellow fever and Black Plague are a serious situation there. And when I went to Mexico, I was down there in 2014. I got Montezuma's revenge. What an embarrassment that was. I couldn't even make it to the toilet in time. And we just have no idea how truly vulnerable we are in our current embrace of technologies.
Well, I think the saddest thing about medical treatment is that if you deny it, because I got a friend that she didn't want to go on Ambien. She didn't want to go on fibromyalgia medicine. So the doctor labeled her mental and put her down as non-compliant. What's wrong?
Mine was going to fire me. I walked into his office, and the first thing they do, you're coming off the streets in traffic, the first thing they do is they take their weight and they cuff you. And I was 151 over 87 or some weird thing. And AMA says you're supposed to be at 130. I'm going to have to put you on meds. And if you don't take those meds, I'm going to have to fire you. He said that to me. And my response back to him was, cuff me again. And I dropped it to 129. I, thank you, Lord, learned how to do that 45 years ago. Now, one size does not fit all. And what is sickness for one man is a health for another. And so the whole thing is nuts. And
but we don't have the right. We don't have the right to deny. We don't have the right to say, I don't want to eat your poison.
That's correct. And they can punish you through your children when you put them in public schools. And that's why the rise of private schools are on the up, because of that very right. Public schools today are mostly like, I don't know, advanced babysitting. And they're not teaching them anything.
No.
So this talk is, I'm really sick. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to crawl into the bed after the interview and sleep through it until I'm
You know
better
what?
again.
If you want, we can.
No, I'm good. I'm okay. I'm so sorry. I'm not feeling well. And thank you though. I'm a trooper. Right down to the last bullet.
Such a cutie patootie. I just love both of you guys over there, you and Joanne.
No, Julie, she will cover for me when I'm like where I am right now. I'm going to probably end up having to exit a little early because I'm really sick. I'm going to throw up again, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I said. If you're not feeling good, we'll call it a night, and maybe we'll have you come back in a couple weeks when you're feeling a little better.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Please, I would love to do that. And talk about, more specific things. I want to know what's going on in California, and I don't think anything being reported right now is accurate. I noticed that none of the networks are talking about the laser flashes that we're seeing from space. What is that? Are they explosions from PG&E that are, one was obviously an explosion down near Woolsey. It went way up into space. You could see the smoke.
Well, I have a guest next week, Dr. Rick, but I don't have one the week after. So why don't you do some digging for us and get us some answers? And
I'll try to do what I can. You betcha. And we're good for that. Yes, let's do that. Yes, thank you.
We'll have you come back in 2 weeks, and you take care of yourself.
Yeah, set it up, set me up, and I'm good to go. Yes, please. I apologize. Oh gosh, I had no idea. This just came on too.
Oh, you know what? It could be the cooties out there.
Thanks a lot. That's what I'm.
Right. It could be he's on Bad Baby Show. Let's zap him.
Well, the whole thing. We don't have smoke here, so it hasn't come up from California up this far yet. All summer, we didn't have a single day that was clear. Because of the forest fires here in Southern Oregon, they were that bad. We didn't have a summer this year at all.
Well, you guys go get some rest, and you don't worry about it. We'll have you come back. Tell Julie I said thanks for filling in.
Yeah, covering for me for that brief moment. Yeah.
If you guys want to flee the West Coast, come on over here to Michigan. You can drown with me in the Great
Lakes. That's where my handler is up there in Michigan, by the way.
Oh, okay. Well, bring a raft.
Maybe. Yeah. Nice. Thank you, Bad Baby.
I love you both. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, honey.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye-bye. And that was Dr. Richard Allen Miller. I love him. He's one of my favorite guests. And on that note, you guys, I am going to close out this interview. And I'm sorry that Dr. Richard was feeling so bad. We will have him come back the week after next. Next week, we are going to bring back Robert Evans because the interview I did with him a few weeks ago, for some reason, it is not coming through. It just says processing. And he did give out some vital information. So what we're going to do is bring him back next Friday. We're going to go over that again. We will bring Dr. Richard back, and then after Dr. Richard, we'll probably have Samuel come back. And on that note, I want to thank you all for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the show, and remember, Bad Baby loves you.